Hello, in this video we're going to fact check some of the information that we've been sent regarding the principal officers' briefings. We're going to start with fire control, Ian. And one of the points that's being told to our members is that the members in fire control are extremely happy with their lot, and also that moving back to the 6 and 6 model from the 7 and 5 is going to reduce staffing in fire control from 35 down to 32. Can you talk us through that one with the maths?
Yeah, first and foremost, what I would say is I don't know who principal officers are speaking to in fire control, because the members that we are speaking to in fire control are incredibly unhappy and they are incredibly angry that their opinions and their expertise has been ignored by the service from the very start of all of this. Now, moving on to the numbers within fire control and the supposed necessity to reduce staffing if they went back to 6 and 6. My maths isn't that wonderful, but 7 and 5 over a 24-hour period, I do believe is 12, and 6 and 6 over a 24-hour period, I believe also adds up to 12.
You're doing well.
So I'm not entirely sure why a reversion to 6 and 6 would require any reduction in staffing, and it is certainly not something that the FBU would ever or have ever advocated for.
Excellent. Okay, moving on then. The apprentice point on the ballot has been sorted in.
Yeah, I think we mentioned this in a previous video, Lee. Very early on, we had a form of words drawn up in relation to apprentices. We believed it achieved the vast majority of what we wanted for our apprentice members, and we were very happy with it. However, it was never formalised and it was never signed off. As explained in a previous video on the 18th of May, when Lee and I met the Chief Fire Officer, he informed us that no point on the ballot would be signed off in isolation, essentially meaning that there is no agreement on apprentices and the service were kept fully informed right up to the registration of the new trade disputes that they would be getting all points on the ballot paper if it was their position that they would not sign off anything in isolation. So, like everything else, it is not resolved.
Thanks for that one, Ian. Now, the next point that's been raised to us is that principal officers are going out saying that paying the correct rates of overtime by the Grey Book to those on the day crew and whole-time retained and hybrid contracts is illegal.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure whether this is correct or whether there is some sort of confusion. There are 2 points to this really. Obviously the first point is we have always maintained that regardless of any legal position, it is morally wrong to pay 2 firefighters different rates for overtime at the end of shift. Everything we have done in this dispute is about equitable treatment for all members in the fire service, regardless of their length of service. However, on the 20th of March, the service elected to seek legal opinion. They informed members in a circular that they had that legal opinion and that they would look to progress any deal on the back of that legal opinion. On the 18th of April, the service gave a proposed dispute resolution paper to FBU officials, the content of which was reported to members during the consultation, and it was reported to the Brigade Committee. In that potential dispute resolution paper, the service offered to pay the correct rates of overtime, i.e. Grey Book, time and a half, if the FBU agreed to withdraw the entire dispute. Now, for those who missed the dates, potentially 4 weeks from receiving legal opinion, the service offered to pay us time and a half if we wiped the entire dispute, which means either the service were intending to break the law by paying the correct rates of overtime, or there has been some terrible misunderstanding and it is in fact not illegal for them to pay the correct rates of overtime, which can lead us to no other conclusion that they just don't want to.
Okay, another point that's being raised in these briefings is that AMR, flood response and MTA are being discussed and are close to being resolved nationally. Discuss.
No one has ever denied that there are national discussions ongoing around broadening of the role. It is the policy of FBU National Conference that we continue to look to secure funding not only for the fire service but for fire service pay by broadening of the role of firefighters. However, any such work must be done through negotiation with the National Joint Council. It is not the place of any Chief Fire Officer or any fire authority to determine on an ad hoc basis what they believe the role of a firefighter to be. If we allow local employers to dictate what the role of a firefighter is, we do not know what will be in the next firefighter contracts. The discussions that are going on nationally should have absolutely no bearing on what is going on in Merseyside. If the Chief Fire Officer or any other Principal Officer or the Fire Authority wish to pursue an expansion of the role nationally, they should do so in good faith, which means they should remove these contractual obligations from our members, and if or when it is agreed nationally, we will undertake the work.
Great stuff, Ian. Leading on from that, I suppose, one of the questions we've had put to us is it true that Merseyside Fire and Rescue Service don't want to use the same MTA model used in London and Manchester because their firefighters work in the hot zone?
Yeah, this is something that was picked up during the last ballot for industrial action, and this was the assertion that Merseyside Fire and Rescue Service did not wish to pursue a Manchester or London style MTA agreement because it would place the authority and firefighters at elevated risk due to deployment to the hot zone. Now, we spoke to counterparts in Manchester and we spoke to counterparts in London. We also obtained the collective agreements that are in place for MTA in those two locations. Both of those collective agreements stipulate that they do not deploy to the hot zone, and if the zone becomes hot, they withdraw immediately unless it is unsafe to do so. What I would also add is this was presented to the Fire Authority in a PowerPoint slide presentation when summing up the FBU dispute at the time. We highlighted these points to the chair of the Fire Authority at the time as well.
Thanks, Ian. And like every good band, we're going to finish with one of the classics. Did Mark Dunn sign off on the day crewing, whole time, retained and hybrid system?
Yeah, this one always makes me chuckle, to be entirely honest. During our last ballot, it was suggested that day crewing and hybrid had been signed off by then Brigade Secretary Mark Dunn. However, on closer examination, we found that the date that was provided for this supposed sign-off, Mark Dunn was not even in Brigade, nor was he the Brigade Secretary. We raised this with service managers, and to date we've received no apology for this inaccurate information that was being given to members on branches.
Thanks a lot for that, Ian. Keep the information coming in. We'll keep giving you the facts. Cheers.